have a lot of sandpaper. Let me tell you, this stuff is not cheap. I have this stuff stuffed everywhere. And anybody that uses sandpaper knows that that's a large part of your budget. And some of it that I buy is really good, and then some of it is, well, not good. Now, I get a lot of direct messages or comments under my video saying, hey, you should try this, or this is really good, or have you tried this? And one of the comments led me to Reptilian from Gator. These are sanding pads. Now, you know I brought a lot of different sanding discs to the channel to see if they were any good. And, well, I went to Lowe's and picked these up, and I got a couple different grits here, but these are the Reptilian Gators, and we're going to see what the hype is about these things. There is supposed to be something special about them, but I want to know, does it really do a good job? Does it work? Do they last? And the special feature they're supposed to have, well, is it going to do its thing? So the reviews on the Lowe's website seem to be pretty high for this sandpaper. That's a good thing, but it doesn't really mean much to me because I'm going to test it myself. So this is hook and loop sandpaper. If you don't know what that means, not a big deal. It's basically a backing material made like Velcro, so it just sticks to your sander. That's really it. Now, this is supposed to be Gator Reptilian, and these lines here are supposed to give you this reptilian style design. It sort of looks like Christmas trees to me, but I get what they're going for. But it's not just about the design or trying to make it look like a reptilian. You see, this design is supposed to do something really cool, and, well, we're going to test it out right now. So I got some pine woodage right here, and this is gel stain, so it's pretty thick, and it's also burnt, distressed woodage. So this is going to be a little bit harder to clean up, but I'm hoping these discs, well, they do the job. Now, I do want to point out real quick that these lines on the sanding disc, they're not going to play a role in like uneven sanding or anything like that. It's not going to make a difference when you got the orbital sander. Speaking of the orbital sander, we're using the DeWalt orbital sander, and the holes line up just fine. So we're going to hook a vac up to this, and then we're going to do it without a vac, and we're going to see how they work. Now, another thing real quick that I want to point out is anybody that's used like cheap or not so good sandpaper, you know, as soon as you start running your fingers over it, you got those grits that start falling off, and you immediately know that you're in a world of hurt. But just by feeling the sandpaper, you can tell this is a higher quality, so I was happy to see that. All right, so for the first couple clips, I'm just going to speed this up because you don't want to be here all day watching me sand this. But I want to point out one thing, and that's the dust collection. Now, with a vacuum hooked up to the sander, which I do have, you're going to pull up dust, but I've never pulled up dust as good as I have with the sandpaper, and I'll explain why. Okay, do you remember I was telling you about the reptilian stuff? This sort of looks like Christmas trees, but yeah, I get what they're going for. Well, the design actually helps the dust travel to the hole. So you can see they're like wedged out. It's almost like if you have a ditch and then you have a water runoff and everything kind of goes towards that ditch and runs off. Well, that's what the dust is doing with the sandpaper. So basically what's happening is the vibration and me moving around the sander, all that dust is traveling down through. It's like a roadway. I have a lot of different analogies for this, but that's what it's doing, except for like when you go over the edge a little bit, but it's not, there's no dust. Like it's sucking it all up like real nice like. And even though this is a gel stain, there was no clogging of the sandpaper. That's another thing that this line or these lines actually help do, is it doesn't allow it to clog up like a lot of other sandpapers would do. Now, without the vacuum attached, well, it pulls the dust up just like every other sandpaper would. It still does the collection into the bag. However, with that vacuum attached, like you're getting nothing. You get no dust in the face. Now, usually something like this, if I was taking this much material off, I would go with like a 40 grit, and then I would move it up to an 80 grit, and then a 120, 180, 220, and so on. But the 80 grit, I wanted to see how long this would last, you know, with the heavier sanding. And I wanted to see if these pads would wear down real fast. There's a method to my madness, my friends, but I will tell you, look, there's no clogging, and they did not wear down. They feel very, very good. So let's move it over to cedar. Every time I put cedar on the channel, it's like everybody's like, oh, that's not cedar, that's pine wood. No, trust me, it's cedar. But I'm not going to hook the vacuum up this time. I usually would hook the vacuum up because I don't want the dust in the face. But I want you to see how much dust is actually coming off of this wood. And I'll tell you, this panel here, it was tough. I mean, it was raised up where all the tree rings were. And yeah, it was something to sand this smooth with the 80 grit. But once you get down through the 80 grit, well, it came out, well, real nice like. Now, after I used the 80 grit to get the rough areas down, then I moved it to a 120. I started bringing my grit levels up. So the higher you go up in the grit levels, that means the smoother your surface is going to be. The lower the grit level, so like 80 compared to 40, 40 would be much more grittier. You're really taking off a lot of material. That makes sense to you. So then I went with my 180, and again, the hook and loop system, the material on these sanding discs are good. They go on and they stay on. They're not sliding around all over the place. And I seem to be getting a lot of life out of these discs. Like, I'll have to save those discs because, like, you know, there's nothing taken off. They're like brand new. And I'm not sure if you noticed during the sanding process, but this was taking off a lot of the woodage. It was sanding it down, that fine particulate matter floating around the air. So I'm going to hook up the vac, and you can see now I'm using my 220, and it's just pulling that stuff right up. I don't have any dust anywhere. I'm not breathing it in. They work really good for how these things are designed. So I'm glad people brought these to my attention. I really like these lines. I thought they were going to be gimmicky, but they're not. They actually worked very, very well. Or should I say, that's real nice. So what can I say? I'm glad that people brought this to my attention because these things are legit. Now the price for these things, for a 30 piece of the 80 grit, just to give you an example, and I'll attach this to the shopping bag on the video. But for 20 bucks, you're getting like 30 pieces, and that's 67 cents each. So that's not real bad like. Now all in all, I thought this stuff did really good. I did testing off camera and used this multiple times before I actually shot this video, and these things really do hold up. I like the design. I thought this is sort of like gimmicky at first, but the way it collects the dust, I was like, okay, this is pretty legit, and it's actually pretty smart on how they did it. Number one, it actually works. Number two, it sort of looks like a reptilian slash Christmas tree. And it's also easy to get. You just walk into Lowe's, you get it, or you can get it on the shopping bag on this video. All in all, really good job, and I think I'm going to continue using this. I think for the price and what you're getting, it's pretty high quality stuff. So good on Gator, good on the people who let me know about Gator, and good on Lowe's for carrying the Gator. Let me know what you think in that Shwee comment section below. Have you used this stuff before? If you have, what do you think? Love hearing that Shwee feedback. Also, get subscribed, hit the bell notifications for more cool videos. I got one for you right here. If you can smash that like button, well, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. Back with more videos soon.